Okay, good morning guys. It's about 8 a.m. here in Central Texas, which means it's already very sunny and it's already very hot. But it's the perfect time to talk about a fruit tree guild. So a few months ago, I made a video on social media. It got way more views than I was expecting. I found out a lot of people hate daffodils. That was weird. And a lot of people didn't think I knew what I was doing. And quite frankly, I didn't. So I did what I do best. I made mistakes, I learned, and I'm here to tell you all about it. But before we get into it, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Kellogg Organic Garden Products. I have been using their citrus and fruit tree plant food all spring and for the beginning of the summer, and it's going really well along with the Fruit Tree Guild. So thank you so much to Kellogg Organic Garden Products. We are big believers of them here in this household. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so the general idea of a fruit tree guild is basically just that plants aren't alone and that plants have friends, especially trees. So this is my Tropic Beauty peach tree. You can tell this peach tree is absolutely loaded down with peaches. Full disclosure, I did not have time to thin the fruit this year. That would have been a much better practice, but we already have, I think, at least 3 or 4 Ziploc bags of peaches frozen, ready for me to make jam. And so this is what's still left on the tree. So this Tropic Beauty peach is like 3 years old, and truthfully, I have this like border around all of our fruit trees, and it was starting to look a little crop circle-y, and I didn't really like it. It didn't feel warm, it didn't feel inviting the way that I want my orchard to look. I've spent years kind of nurturing these trees, and I want it to be like a happy, fun place and not look so stark. So I started to look up companion planting for fruit trees, and that was when I ran into fruit tree guilds. And so fruit tree guilds is a permaculture concept, and permaculture is a very large subject. If you've never heard of it, I highly encourage you to go do some research into it. But permaculture really is about like finding an ecosystem, and that's what I wanted to do with these fruit trees. So you can call it companion planting, a fruit tree guild, call it whatever you want. The main thing is it actually, in my opinion, this spring has been working. I'm already sweating. It's already hot out here. Okay, so the Fruit Tree Guild has 5 main components. The first one is nitrogen fixers, and nitrogen fixers are going to be plants that grow, and then when they die back, they put nitrogen back into the soil. So we're not quite at that part yet because of where we're at in the season, but in the fall, I plan on planting crimson clover and then chopping it back so that the nitrogen can go back down into the soil. So that is the first part of our Fruit Tree Guild. Okay, and the second part of our Fruit Tree Guild is going to be attracting pollinators and beneficial insects. So come on over here. We'll show you part of where we're doing that. Whoop. So this is calendula. Calendula, I mean, it's looked better. This was definitely, it's going to seed, which is what this is. So this is what your calendula is going to look like when it goes to seed. And one of the cool part about what we're doing with the Fruit Tree Guild is I'm just letting this all go to seed. I'm not deadheading it. And so in theory, it will go ahead and reseed itself and propagate the Fruit Tree Guild as it goes along. So nasturtium is another one that's here that we're using, and it has all these little flowers in it that will attract the pollinators and the beneficial insects. Now I will say the one thing I struggled with this season is our peach trees bloomed so early that really we would need some kind of pollinator plant to bring the pollinators in to pollinate the peaches, and that just really didn't happen. So borage is one that we planted. It's over here. So this plant is called borage, and it has these really sweet little like kind of purpley periwinkle flowers, and this blooms really early here in Central Texas. So this would wake up at the same time that the peaches would when they really needed pollinating. So I'm hoping that as the years continue to progress, this will all kind of reseed itself and really kind of start to fall in line with that rhythm of nature. Okay, so the next one are pest repellents. So this is our third arm of the Fruit Tree Guild. So pest repellents are going to be anything from these kinds of marigolds right here. You can also do garlic, you can do chives, you can also do daffodils. So this is where I got in big trouble. on the social media of people with their daffodils. But daffodils are really good at repelling different kinds of pests. So I did have daffodils that came up in the spring. They looked amazing. They were really fun. And they, you know, I will say they did do a pretty good job at repelling some pests. We have not had many pest issues here in this garden. Now I will say we did have a pretty bad aphid issue. And here, come here, I'll show you. So this right here is a plum tree that has really grown mostly this year. It's been here for a couple of years. It's really finally put on growth this year, and it was absolutely covered in aphids. And I was very close to spraying a pesticide, but instead what I did was I waited. So what the Fruit Tree Guild did was there was a bunch of cilantro. Cilantro is another really early grower for us, and I noticed that there were ladybugs all over the cilantro. And I know that ladybugs like to eat aphids. And so the ladybugs were kind of over in these trees over here, like, you know, mating and eating the cilantro and doing all this stuff. And then I said, okay, my grapevines, which obviously look amazing, and they were covering my plum tree, and I said, I'm just gonna wait like a week or two. Sure enough, the ladybugs migrated from the Fruit Tree Guilds up over to eat all the aphids, and I never had to spray anything. And so really that is kind of, in my opinion, what the Fruit Tree Guild is all about, is kind of creating that ecosystem so that all of these plants can help take care of each other. Okay, and the last two parts of our Fruit Tree Guild, to me, are one and the same-ish. So we have mulch makers and then weed suppressors. So mulch makers here in Central Texas, because we get so hot, I prefer to use hardwood mulch, undyed hardwood mulch. That's native to the area, and that works really well for us. But if you want to do like mulch makers, you could do hostas, comfrey, rhubarb, something that's going to be a chop and drop. So you make sure you chop it, you leave it, and then it becomes its own living mulch. That'll work really, really well. Now, one of the things that I mentioned is the last arm of the Fruit Tree Guild is weed suppression. Now, generally weed suppression, as long as you have enough shade, you're suppressing the weeds. But some actual like ground cover type things would be, gosh, do I have any that's growing really well right now? Oh, I have some alyssum over here. Okay, so this is sweet alyssum. This could be considered a ground cover. Alyssum is kind of invasive in some areas, not in Central Texas, because it gets so hot here that it barely survives. But when you're looking for a kind of ground cover, you're looking for like thyme, oregano, things that are really gonna kind of cover this soil. Not only will it help retain the water, but it will also cool down the soil so the soil is not so hot. But really anything, in my opinion, can be weed suppression as long as it's providing enough shade to shade out the weeds, which a lot of our Fruit Tree Guilds are doing exactly that. Why is it right when we're going to end the video?
Perfect ending.
This didn't happen the whole time. Okay, this is my life. Okay, so this is our last example of a Fruit Tree Guild. This is another one of our plum trees, and honestly, this kind of, I think, really encompasses the spirit of a Fruit Tree Guild. So I kind of I put plants in, but I also just threw down a bunch of seed, and honestly, everything is thriving. Like, I would say this area has the least amount of disease, the least amount of pests. What are you two eating? Hey! And so it really kind of has this just like absolutely wild kind of vibe, and there's all kinds of different plants in here. So we have lavender, we have some coneflower, we have yarrow, nasturtium, these are zinnias, this is, I think that's called larkspur, I don't even know what that is. This is amaranth. I don't even know what kind of amaranth this is, I'm gonna be honest with you. But it's almost as tall as the freaking tree. So even though this tree, I cut it back pretty far and it's just growing like crazy. And so yeah, there's all kinds of native plants, there's non-native plants, there's a beautiful rose back there. That's my memorial to our dog Cooper that passed. And so there's some African blue basil. There's just all of this stuff, and granted there's like all these other flowering plants, but this, I think really encompasses the true spirit of a fruit tree guild. So thank you so much again to the sponsor of this video, Kellogg Organic Garden Products. Their citrus and fruit tree plant food is something I've been using once a month for the whole entire like winter, spring. It's really kind of fed this whole entire ecosystem that we're building, and we just really appreciate their support of this channel. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about the Fruit Tree Guild, or if this inspired you to do one yourself, please let me know, and we'll see you in the garden next time.